So I'm really pushing myself out of my comfort zone with this, what I'm doing here on this channel. Um, and it was always intended to be kind of more of a sort of practice channel behind the scenes, sort of what I'm doing to sort of uh, start this project, this Centaur project that I'm doing, um, where I'm releasing a track a week. And what the inclusion of these machines here have done is kind of turned it also into kind of like it's almost like the splurges that I'm doing, the ideas that I'm creating are um, also kind of performances, which is kind of putting things into a weird place for me, and because it's kind of really pushing me out my comfort zone. Because fact is, I can't yet play the piano as well as I'd like to be able to. So I'll talk a bit more about this after I finish. But particularly this thing that I've set up to play over, to perform, it's a bit of a tricky one. So we'll see how it goes. Could have gone forever. The thing about this stuff, so there's so many like combinations when you combine these three things together, and then with that on top. Now, what made that one difficult on the keyboard was that it's quite a fast chord progression, so it's changing from D major to D minor or F major, depending on which way you look at it. Probably more like D minor. Then G is the next chord, and then A. I've been playing an A major 7. And essentially, so the way that I'm doing this, because really, the point of this, well, there's a number of different points, but the point musically of me doing it like this is the point of me doing it like this is for me to splurge and make lots of ideas, some of which I then go on to release in my one track a week project as Zentor. So the kind of and the reason I'm sort of performing them live is partly through accountability, partly because I'm, with the addition of the subharmonicon and now this setup with just these three things and what I'm playing on the keyboard, I'm now sort of fulfilling a lifetime, well, maybe not lifetime, but as long as I can remember, dream of being able to actually write music live. And when I say live, it doesn't have to be in a room with other people. I mean, like in the moment, literally just play something live. And in order to sort of encourage me to actually do that, I've decided to sort of do it live on a channel. I actually started just by improvising uh, on the piano, and I've added this just since getting the subharmonicon, because it's now I can now create sort of entire pieces of music without having to program anything. Just need to set up this stuff and then play over the top. And so I'm partly doing it in order to get the ideas which I will then go into finish to release every week, but also kind of to practice as well, because I'm really enjoying this combination of things for various different reasons, and I sort of feel that the music that's sort of automatically, well, not automatically because it's quite hard sometimes, but the music that's coming out right now is more me than I've ever done anything before. It just feels like everything is kind of coalesced into this thing, which just sounds like, well, sounds more like me than anything before. Um, but the problem, and everything that you solve, every problem that you solve, always inevitably it brings a whole host of other problems. There's never going to be a point at which I solve all of the problems there are to solve. The only way that's going to happen is if I, or when I, not if I, when I end up in the ground, right? So at that point, all my problems have been solved. So aside from that, which I don't want to happen right now because I'm so excited about solving other problems. I'm, even though I'm really happy that this is happening and that I'm doing this, I'm not. There's a number of things that I'm not kind of able to do. So, for instance, when I'm streaming something live on YouTube, psychologically speaking, I know that sometimes some people are watching. So, for instance, today's was a harder one. Like, I knew it was hard because it was a chord progression. I mean, it's not really hard. I'm not very good at the piano though, right? So it's it's a chord progression which I'm not so familiar with. It's the change from D major to D minor, and also it happening quite quickly. This what when I initially did this, it did go at 123 beats per minute, but I just had to slow it down. And added to that, I'm using my phone. Sorry, I'm using my phone, and it's not working very well. Anyway, as the camera. So and the other thing was there was a number of different piano parts that I really wanted to get in. So, for instance, the sort of almost like jokey. I mean, it's almost like a joke, kind of, the old classic rave piano kind of line like this. Um, that now, I think I played that okay, but I mean, even that, which is quite simple, is at that speed bumping against the edges of my ability to stay in time and keep, play the right notes and all that kind of thing. The other thing that I wanted to get in, and like when I'm actually, well, if I finish this tune, because I'm not deciding whether I'm finishing it or not yet. If I finish this tune, the other thing I wanted to do, which I didn't actually try because I knew I was going to get it wrong, but I'll play it slowly, is almost is like kind of a nod to Mozart, which is. And I was gonna go like this, and I'll play it slowly so I can play it, but I didn't do it because beforehand I just couldn't get it right. So it was no, what was it? See, can't get it right. Like that. So I wanted to do a nod to Eine kleine Nachtmusik, which is Mozart, and Mozart is absolutely huge to me. But at that speed, and I tried slowing it down to like 110 beforehand to see, and I still couldn't get it right. So I'm just not going to play that bit, right? But it would be I just like a little interlude in the middle, and I was thinking about stopping the Moogs and having this bit, which is see, still can't get it right. And the reason I like that is it's kind of it's funny. It's got a little bit of a joke. It's light-hearted, and but it's massive contrast with the stuff that happens later. And I kind of when I sort of came up with that, I really wanted to get that in, which is what made this performance hard to do, because I didn't know. I hadn't decided whether I was going to do that or not. So what I did was I just decided to play that bit without the right hand. Okay, and so the problem, if you like, with me doing this project like this is that the performance aspect of it, if I have a good idea, because sometimes when I do a patch and start playing, I don't really know. I don't really have. Actually, I just need to stop the recording. Yep. So I don't really have an idea of what I'm going to do on the piano, but with this one, I had a number of different ideas, most of which wasn't sure I could play with wrong notes, and that's kind of a type thing where you're sort of, it's almost like I'm in a way I'm selling this as a performance in a way. It's almost like I'm going to do a performance on YouTube, so it kind of freaks me out a bit. But one thing it's definitely doing is it's forcing me to practice by actually making music, which is kind of the whole point. So the problem that I've created for myself is the problem that I wanted. So I can't really I can't really complain. It's fulfilling what I want it to fulfill. And obviously, if I do this every day, or almost every day, let's say I just do it for 300 days this year, I'm going to be so much better in so many different ways at both the piano and at doing this. I mean, already I was listening back to the things I did a few days ago on this. I'm not saying they're better or worse, but certainly they're a lot more basic, if you like. I'm getting my head around how to make these three things do different things. Yeah, and also like how to separate, because at the start, everything was kind of bunched in the same frequency range, and now I'm kind of figuring out how to do sort of make a much fuller tune out of it. I'm not again. I'm not saying they're better or worse. It's just it's like it's going to be easier to mix for a start. Because one of the problems with this setup. Actually, let me get my Moog cam on. There we go. One of the problems I've found with this, well, not with this setup, but particularly with the mother, and I've realised what it is that I don't. When it's not that I don't like about it, I've realised why I'm not as totally overjoyed with using the mother as I am about the subharmonicon and the DFAM, and the reason is the sequencer in the mother. So the mother sequencer isn't fully analog. Now it's not about it sounding worse or anything like. It's not that. It's just that it's for instance, there's a firmware update which I haven't done on the mother. You wouldn't be, I don't think anyway, you'd be able to have a firmware update of these two because there's no firmware, right? So this has got a little computer inside it, as far as I can tell, which runs the sequencer, and you program the sequencer like, for instance, well, it's not the same, but similar to the way you program, for instance, one of these. Okay, so in other words, there's a certain amount of menu diving, even though there's no screen. There's a certain amount of menu diving you have to do by pressing different combinations of buttons, and that, unlike with these, where literally in order to sequence things, you twist knobs. That's it. These little knobs are determining the notes, yeah, of the sequence. And some people don't like this because the knobs, the very fine changes on here, similarly, these little knobs. So it's not a computer, so you don't have to go through menus. But also, these are much more. I mean, you can discover stuff on anything. You can discover stuff on a door. Yeah, right. But these are purely, I mean, as close to pure discovery machines as it's possible to have. Whereas this is a bit more, because you've got to program the notes in, a bit more analytical. Now, how I've got around that is by having these two in combination playing the mother. Okay, so at the moment, let me just show you if you're interested in this kind of thing, which you may well not be. But anyway, let's just give it a go, and I'll show you. In fact, they're all playing each other, really, in a way. But I'll quickly show you. Right. So, how do I do this? So, okay. So let's start with the subharmonicon on its own. I need my headphones. Actually, I could turn it up. There we go. Okay. All right. So we've got sequencer 1, which is tied to oscillator 1, because there are two oscillators, right? And that is playing this. It will in a minute. Now, yep. So that's playing the kind of chord progression. It's not playing the root, it's playing. Which is basically playing the fifth note of each chord. Yeah. But if you add the sub oscillators, and what the sub oscillators are they are also tied to that same tone, and you can set them to play different notes. So that's how you get chords, right? So there's two of them, yeah. So that's just playing an octave, and this is playing the chord. Yeah, and you can turn them up and down here, like that. Yeah. Now that that sequencer, I think, so yeah, sequencer 1 is going into a mult, which basically splits the signal, and then is going into the VCO1 of the DFAM. Okay, so that's what is making the DFAM's note change. Now, This is another thing that I've got to watch out for. Hey Tim, this is another thing I've got to watch out for. You've got to be careful not to knock any of the dials, particularly the tuning dials, because then things go out of tune. And that's what happened in the middle of that. I knocked the tuning dial and everything was out. So that's something I've really got to watch out for. I've got to watch my big banana fingers. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So, right, hang on. So. Oh, let's do that one. Turn it down a bit. I'll put it onto the square wave so you can hear it better. So there you can hear it slightly out of tune. That's because I knocked something. But basically, the subharmonicon is telling the DFAM, well, not telling, but it's sending a signal, which so the DFAM's following the general pattern there. Similarly, what I've got is I've got sequencer 2, and I'll just play sequencer 2 in the, this is VCO2 as well, in the subharmonicon. It's playing this part, which is also, no, I don't think it is, no, it's not following in notes, the sequencer 1, but it's playing, hang on, sorry, let's turn that down. Yeah, so this was the thing that I knocked and went out of tune. So right, so at the moment, if I'm on, it's really hard to explain. Right, so essentially, I've also linked sequencer 2 to sequencer 1, so it follows the same pattern, right? Okay, so here you can hear. Right, so that's VCO2, and you can set the rhythm VCO2 here. So I've set sequencer 2 to these 3 rhythms because it's polyrhythmic, right? So if I just play one rhythm, right, and then I add another rhythm, and then I add another rhythm, right. So that's just sequencer 2, and again, you've got 3. You've got the main oscillator, and you've got the 2 other oscillators. Now I think I may well have detuned it again, so I'm going to have to sort that out in a minute. But anyway, now if I add sequencer 1 to this, and also what I've done is I've set, what have I done? I can't remember what I've done. I'm pretty sure that I've somehow set sequencer 2. Yes, VCO2. Here we go. So I've set VCO2 to also be controlled in terms of pitch by VCO1 in the subharmonicon, which is how you get the change. So the reason it was on the same chord there was because I turned off sequencer 1 going. But now I'm going to turn it on. So now let's listen. And again, if this is out of tune, it's because I accidentally detuned the VCO2. So I'll sort that out in a second. Right, and if I pull out that lead, so if I pull out that lead, where is it? I can't find it now. My wife last night, she said, I came in, I put my head around the door and I saw you, like, it was like all the lights were off and just this light was on. I was there with a lead going like this. She said, you were like some kind of mad scientist or something. So, yeah, this is me making music. Anyway, so take, no, that was the wrong one. Sorry, hang on. This one. Yeah, this one. Right. No change, even though sequencer 1 is moving. So if I plug that in, wrong one. So now it's moving with sequencer 1. So I've got VCO2 moving with sequencer 1 in terms of the pitch. I've got VCO1 of this moving with VCO2 in terms of the pitch as well. So they're driving each other. Here come the leaf blowers. Hang on a minute. But that still doesn't solve the problem of how not to use the Mother 32 sequencer. I mean, at some point I probably will use the Mother 32 sequencer, but just not at this point. I prefer to kind of have the limitation of having it just being played by this. Okay. So what I've got is the gate. What have I got? So the VCF EG. So this is the envelope of the filter is going into the gate, which is like kind of, I mean, I don't really understand it very much. Basically makes it play a note, okay, of the Mother 32. So let's have a listen to what's going on there. So basically, the envelope of the filter is now telling the Mother 32 to play a note. And at the moment, I've got it set to playing noise, right? But also, I've got the Mother 32 set to playing a note, some notes. Now let's just turn off the. So I've just turned it to a different LFO shape. So now we've got a square LFO. Yeah, and I can go. And so I got, yeah. So why is it playing those notes? What's the reason for that? Yes, you're right. I've actually got sequencer 2 of the subharmonicon. So the second one, the one doing this. Yeah, and you might go, well, why is that playing a different note? Well, because one of the reasons is that whatever you put into that is summed with these knobs here, yeah. Plus, I've also got the, this is like ridiculous, isn't it? So I've also got it set so that the LFO, which is on a square wave at the moment, is set to change the frequency as well, right? And I've tweaked it, tried to tweak it so that it's vaguely in tune because it's kind of microtonal. Yeah, you can't. I mean, I guess you could get it exactly right, but I've not been able to. So just let it go a bit like ooh, because it kind of, that's the purpose of that part, is to make it go a bit nuts, right? And when you turn it down a bit, it just creates a bit of craziness. That kind of thing, you know.
The machines are coming to destroy us. Yes.
That kind of thing. And then if you add the So at the moment, everything is being played by everything else. Because the final thing I haven't mentioned, and I might as well talk about this, which is the crazy noise that comes in sort of halfway through, which is this one. Just like, okay, what's all that about? That, you know, that kind of noise. Send people into a bit of a pickle on the dance floor, shall we say. That is VCO2 of the DFAM, which is being played by a couple of things. It's being played by, let me try and remember this. It's being played by the VCO pulse out of this. So in other words, there's a, this is the square wave signal is going into, and it's telling the VCO2 to play a certain pitch. There is something else going on as well, though, and I can't remember what it is, but it's doing something else as well. Plus, because it's summed with the frequency knob of the VCO2, I can also make it go up and down. remember, the VCO pulse is playing the thing that was being played by the subharmonicon, right? So it's kind of all different, but it's all the same. So it melds into, you get this interest, and you can change lots of things. But when you turn one knob, it changes everything else as well. So you've got this kind of, it's almost like a band playing with each other. That's what I love about it so much. That's why it's got this quality to it that I've not been able to reproduce anywhere else, where one thing is playing with, literally with another, and then I'm playing with that here and also on there. It's like, it's, when I say that, I mean, obviously they weren't, but it's a very unusual experience to feel like. I've just got to check that I haven't got a client right now. I think it's at 7:30. Oh no, we're all good. 9:30. It's all right. I won't be here for another 2.5 hours. So I'll stop in a minute. Yeah. So one of the things that Zentor is about it's like asking the question, which I think is one of the questions of our time, which is like, where does man start and machine end? Because in a sense, language is a machine. A machine is a technology, an algorithm for doing something. And there's a lot of fear out there about machines at the moment. I mean, there's a lot of fear out there about everything at the moment, but there's a lot of fear about technology. And it's an open question. Technology and has some very bad impacts, as you know. I'm very kind of careful of social media and worry about all that kind of thing, for instance. However, in the aggregate, I believe that it doesn't make any sense for us to fear technology. We just have to learn how to harness it and not let it harness us, if you like. And that's what this Centaur project is about. It's like the kind of the message, the purpose of it is around the intersection between man and machine. And when I say, kind of tongue in cheek, that it feels like Moog made these machines for me, it's like I couldn't imagine a more ideal. I mean, I'm sure there is one. Just because I couldn't imagine it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I couldn't imagine a more ideal uh, like set of machines to do that thing that I'm kind of talking about, which is for me to be playing with a band of machines, yeah, or even for it to be the same thing. And there have been times already, even though I've only been doing this a few days, there have been times already where it starts to feel like it's a kind of it's such a great experience where it starts to I mean, I kind of disappear, and it's not that I am playing these or I'm playing that. It's like it's just us. And I know that sounds a bit woo, but it's true. It's kind of what's happening, and it's such a joyous experience. It's like a kind of escape. You sort of literally lose yourself, but in a good way. And that's why I think it works, is because you are connecting these things together, which are impacting each other, and they're telling each other to play certain things, and I'm telling them to play certain things. And because you've got all these different complicated interrelationships that my thinking mind couldn't understand, I often don't know exactly what's going to happen when I twist a particular knob. Yeah, it's like you are constantly in discovery when you're playing like this, which then goes on and impacts your, usually very terrible in my case, improvisation on over here as well. So there, I've given you a bit of background on what I'm doing here. I mean, one of the things I'm really trying to do is not avoid mistakes too much when I'm doing these performances. It's hard to do because I know that people are going to be seeing it and people are going to be watching, but I want to kind of constantly be going into my stretch zone, which is why I did opt to do the in that performance then, even though I knew I'd get it wrong, and I opted to do other things I was a little bit worried about, because I'm just trying to push myself into sort of the practice area where I'm stretching myself beyond what I can actually do. And this is another reason why I opted to do this kind of thing on a Mike Munn Daily channel, YouTube channel, rather than the Zentor channel. Not that there is a Zentor channel yet. There isn't a Zentor channel yet. But when I do sort of do that, it's going to be much more of a, this is a performance by a musician. I don't know, I might not even show my face or something, but this is much more of the behind the scenes stuff. And I'll be, occasionally I won't say anything. I'll just play something if I don't have time today I had a bit of time, and I just wanted to give you a bit of background on why I'm doing this, how I'm doing this, and where I'm at with it. Maybe what I'll do in the future is I'll try and actually separate the video, so it's easier for you to kind of see which are performances and which are explanations. So anyway, I hope that was entertaining. The music. I hope it was valuable. The explanation. And yeah, I will be back tomorrow with another performance of a kind. Well, basically, what I end up doing is I end up setting up the patch and the notes and sort of playing a bit over the top the evening before, and then I do the performance in the morning, sometimes as soon as I can, depending on what I've got going on in the morning. So that's the kind of way it's working at the moment. Eventually, I'd like to get to the point where I don't set anything up. I just literally, the performance is me setting it up. Not quite there yet, but that's the idea. That's the future, if you like. So yeah, like, subscribe, tell your friends about it, and join me tomorrow. And until then, onwards and upwards.